It's the Waiting for Next Year.com podcast. Second appearance by Jessica Forrester. How's it going?
Hi, it's going great.
So we have a great many things to talk about.
A lot of things.
And I said, hey, you've got carte blanche. You give me what you want to talk about. And you came up with most of the topics.
I did.
But surprisingly enough, I came up with the Taylor Swift topic.
You know, it didn't even occur to me to bring Taylor into this, but I'm so glad that you did.
So we're going to end with Taylor Swift so that we get all the sports stuff to the people who want sports stuff first, and they can turn it off if they so desire. But I can't imagine anybody would turn off Taylor Swift talk.
Yeah, I mean, that would be crazy to do that.
So what was the first story that you came up with?
So the first thing that I brought up was this program put out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers called Red, also a Taylor Swift album, I might add.
Probably the best one, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a personal fave. But it's this fan engagement program designed specifically for female fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, and this isn't totally new. I mean,
no.
Sports teams have been doing their best to engage female fans, or at least monetize them with gear.
Yes.
And the first thing that came to mind when you brought this up was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the Red Sox finally stopped sucking, and they finally started catering to all the female fans in their fan base by releasing, shirts that were cut for women, and some of and I know it got a lot of backlash by some of the male fans, but the pink gear.
Right.
And there were so many women who already loved the Red Sox and were tired of wearing men's shirts that it just took off because they basically just catered to people who were already there.
Yes.
But that's not what the Buccaneers did.
No, so the Buccaneers program it's more of like a content marketing strategy. They have created this website that almost has like a news feed of stories and articles and things to read, but from the looks of it, it is mostly like explaining elements of the game, not any specific like Buccaneers game, but just like there was an article called "What is a Play Clock?" And some of them,
and I'm laughing. I probably shouldn't laugh, but that's hysterical.
Some of them got a little more in depth. I looked today. They posted one explaining the different hand signals that the referees do when they're like calling a penalty and what it's for and what the penalty entails, like how many yards or like whatever. So some of them have gotten a little bit more in-depth than what is a play clock. But to me, it seems like that's great content to put out there in general. I think any football fan could use kind of a refresher on things like that. You know what I mean? Taking different parts of the game and explaining them in a way that is quick and easy to understand in case you forgot, or maybe there's a rule that you never really understood, but they're framing it up on this site that is like just for women, just for female Bucs fans. And it's like, it feels a little degrading, I think, to do it that way.
Well, it's out of time. I mean, I think there probably was a time maybe in the late 70s or into the 80s where, women were probably marginalized as fans of the sport, and they hadn't caught up on how it all worked because they never played it. And I mean, back in those days, women were just starting to be accepted in athletics, period.
Right.
But like now, and sometimes when I talk to quote unquote girl fans or whatever, maybe they don't understand the difference between the 3-4 defense and the 4-3 defense. But I talk to a lot of guys who don't know the difference between those two defenses too. So it's
right.
I mean, we're pretty much on an even playing field for anybody who wants to be on that playing field.
And I don't think that, if you're not into it enough that you know things like that, it's not because you're a woman. It's just because you're not that interested in it.
Absolutely.
It's so funny to me.
So I'm gonna put this in non-evil but out of touch.
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, like the other part of the program is a Pinterest board, which
I love this, by the way.
Obviously, like Pinterest is very, I think, I don't have the numbers, but I'm sure that it's much more like saturated in the female market than it is among guys.
By a long shot.
But the Buccaneers have created this whole Pinterest board of recipe ideas and
because girls would only be interested in recipe
game day
ideas.
Outfits. Right. I mean, you need to know enough so you can pretend to talk about football, and then really all you're worried about is your recipes. There's makeup.
It's okay,
tips.
honey, as long as you can make a good dip.
Honey, make sure you do your makeup in the way that the Buccaneers think that you should. There's a whole pin board of babies wearing football gear. There's wedding planning pins. It's just very odd to me. I don't know. It's odd.
Well, and if a football team is going to create a Pinterest, they should aim it at females, but not in such a sexist way. Like, this sounds like the way a guy would aim a Pinterest at a woman.
You know, and the whole program feels to me like not one single woman was involved in the planning or execution of it. Like, I don't know anything about Tampa Bay's front office, but I feel like there's no way a woman was like, yes, this is a great idea.
All right. It appears that this might be just an unrealistic or inaccurate infographic, but it looks to me like there might be 13% men on Pinterest.
Oh, that's actually higher than I would have thought.
That's still pretty low.
Yeah.
But either way, like, I mean, you can use Pinterest to cater to female football fans without being insulting or degrading.
Yeah, and
I think that's really the bottom line.
I was trying to think about that today, like how could they fix this or tweak it so it doesn't feel bad? And I was thinking, like, instead of the team putting this stuff out there, like if they opened it up to be more of a dialogue between fans.
They need to put out the products and then find champions in the Tampa region who are Pinterest champions.
Pinners. They're pinners.
Pinners, but I just meant like influential pinners.
Yeah, for sure. And like let the team serve as more of like the channel by which the fans are talking to each other, not the team pushing it down on the fans.
Well, and I know brands and companies are trying to be their own content creators, but it's caused a lot of awkwardness. I mean, and even beyond the sexism of the Buccaneers, we see this with the Browns and ClevelandBrowns.com, where they seem to be out of touch with what the front office is thinking, but the team hires all these quote media personalities to do all these different things. They've got their own radio studio in the building and everything, and it's just a weird time because nothing weirds me out more than when @Browns has breaking news. I'm like,
yes,
they're
reporting on themselves.
Yeah, City Hall in Cleveland doesn't release breaking news on itself. Right.
No, you're exactly right. It's a really odd time, and I feel like everyone is trying to do content, and I think that people are like rushing to put stuff out just to say that they're doing content marketing.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not doing it right.
Well, yeah, because if you want to do content marketing and you're the Browns, that just means you should take more film of your practices or do more one-on-one interviews with your players that people want to listen to.
Right.
It's very easy. I mean, you've got access. That's the key to content marketing for brands and companies, is having special access and a little bit of creativity. This seems like it's a little bit too far. So here's the question. So do you think this was something that the Buccaneers came up with, or was this ill-conceived by some kind of outside consultant? Did they have to pay money for this?
You know, that's a really good question. I feel like I'm guessing that Tampa Bay has a content marketing team because, you know, much like the Browns, they're putting out their own content all the time.
Yeah.
So I would have to assume that it came from in-house.
Do you think any of this was a reaction to, and maybe this is like tinfoil hat conspiracy theory time, but I mean, they did draft a guy with a spotty, I don't know how to say this, but Jameis Winston at least was suspect in terms of his relations with women.
You know,
It's probably not that deep-seated. They're not that like diabolical.
And honestly, the whole thing doesn't seem that strategic or well thought out. I think that all NFL teams are trying to, it's like a Me Too thing. Like, hey, we care about women too. You know, over the last couple years, the NFL has gotten a lot of like flack for, you know, domestic disturbances and certain players. And I think teams across the board are trying to.
Which, let's be honest, that's also a little bit ridiculous because, like, despite the fact that some of their players were really awful, it's not like they ever co-signed on it. You know?
Right.
Like, they never co-signed on it. They just, you know, unfortunately had some players who did some really bad things.
Yeah, you can take issue with the individual players, but you don't necessarily need to take issue with the league across the board.
No, although, you know, I guess if we did a deep dive into the Ray Rice thing, there's lots of things to take issue with the league and their reaction. But
I would say Ray Rice is a different story.
They might have co-signed a little bit in a way.
That one, yes.
Come to think of it, I think I just walked back all the things that I just said about co-signing.
Well,
but that's okay.
Ray Rice is an exception.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. And thankfully, not signed to the Browns to run the football for Cleveland.
Let's hope. Like, every time I hear that name thrown out there, I just it turns my stomach.
Yeah, and on generically speaking, I do think, you know, somebody should deserve a second chance, and, you know, as long as in his own personal life he's crossed the T's and dotted the I's and everybody's good, you know, it really shouldn't enter into it. But I mean, this is supposed to be my entertainment escape, and I'm supposed to try and be a fan and root for these guys, and I'd be lying if I said it was going to be easy, like, oh, you know, water under the bridge with a guy like Ray Rice. And maybe that's a flaw in me. I don't know. I don't think so. But I wasn't prepared for it. I wrote about that.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. I had similar feelings. I felt bad for Steelers fans when the Steelers signed Michael Vick. I know he paid his debt to society. I know, you know, people think that he did his time and deserves a second chance, and I don't disagree, but I would be incredibly upset to see him in a Browns uniform. It's just, you know.
And you know what's really crazy about Michael Vick, and I've brought this up before, people think that he went to jail for cruelty to animals and dogfighting, but like the majority of what he went to jail for was interstate commerce violations and gambling over state lines. Like, they don't really care about animals until you start putting money on them.
And it's like, what do you do when the team you love signs a player that you hate? Like, what do you do? That would be really tough.
I mean, I had a difficult enough time with Trot Nixon. He didn't do anything bad. He was just a Red Sox.
Yeah, and you just had an issue with that.
Yeah, did you listen earlier when Dave Sterling brought up Paul Kruger, and I just said, look, he's a Raven.
Brought up who?
Paul Kruger.
No.
And because he was a Raven, and so like I'm not letting that one go, and so I've carried that little like inside joke. This was really just a joke because I have nothing against Paul Kruger, but I've carried it over into my real life. So at the opener, when they announced Paul Kruger and he's running out of the tunnel, I was standing next to my sister and I just looked at her. I said, Raven. And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, he's a Raven. She's like, he's not. He plays for the Browns now. I said, no, Raven.
You know,
so I'm not letting it go. I'm an awful person.
I felt that way about David Justice when the Indians got him from the Braves. I had like the hardest time with that. And then eventually, like, I don't know, I got over it, I guess, because I loved him. But
when David Justice was even worse because he was a Yankee too, right? Didn't he go to the Yankees after the Indians?
I think so. I don't remember.
Braves plus Yankees, that's like the worst.
Yeah, that is. Ooh.
Yeah, because we traded him to the Yankees for what, like Ricky Leday.
I bet you never thought we'd be talking about Ricky Leday on this podcast.
I'm Googling now. But yeah, David Justice was another one. Like if he had the same career today that he had back then, he's 49 years old now. I'm looking at this. But he had some domestic issues with what? TLC, remember?
Yeah, with Halle Berry, right?
Halle Berry, okay. No, it wasn't TLC. That was the other Atlanta guy. That was the receiver with left eye, right?
Oh,
Andre
yeah.
Rison.
Yes.
This is how bad I am. I'm confusing Atlanta athletes between baseball and football and their celebrity spouses or girlfriends. I don't even know what I'm going to bullet point for that.
We just talked about a lot of things right there.
Yeah. All right. So what else? What was next on the agenda?
Next on the agenda was the Columbus Clippers, which I think that they're playing for the championship as we speak. So fingers crossed. But I thought that their whole strategy so they've been having attendance issues. I think their park holds around 10,000 people, and there was a game last week. They're in the playoff hunt. They had like less than 2,500 people there. And so the general manager stormed into the press box at some point during the game and said, I don't care what it takes. All the games for the rest of the playoffs are free. Open the gates, let everyone in. I want to pack this place with people.
Wow.
And I think that it was like a crazy success. I think the
announced crowd was 2,468. By way of comparison, the Clippers averaged 9,016 during the regular season. So was this a pricing issue?
You know, I had found an article today that it went through the list of things that are all happening in the fall, and it just sounds like minor league baseball falls to the bottom of that list. You know, like football starting up in Columbus, obviously Ohio State starting back up. Kids are going back to school. Like, I think that it's more of just an afterthought. Like, it's fun, we'll go, but it falls like low on the list of priorities. Because I think that they had pretty good attendance all season. It's just been within the last couple weeks or in the last month that it had kind of dropped off.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But I just think it's so interesting that they just decided to be so upfront about it and just go for it. And it was obviously a huge success. And you have to think, yes, they're losing money on ticket sales, but 10,000 people in your stadium are buying beers and hot dogs and souvenirs for the kids. Like, people are still going to come in and spend their money, right?
Yeah. Well, and at some point, that's got to work for the Indians too.
I mean, I would love it if the Indians would try it sometime. I'm sure they never would, but
like a couple times a summer, they had a $5 ticket night. They don't have to even give them away for free,
right?
But like a family of four gets in for $20. You tell me they're not going to sell. Let's see, how many does it hold now? Because they reduced the number.
Yeah,
so it's what 38,000 now. But tell me they wouldn't sell 30,000 or 32,000 at $5 a pop.
I know. I would love it if they did more of that.
All right. So, yeah, a standing room crowd of 10,734 jammed Huntington Park.
It's amazing. Like, that's as much attendance as the Indians are getting right now.
Yes, that's true. That's really sad. But I think Major League Baseball would revolt if the Indians started giving away their tickets. But like, it would be better for everybody. It'd be better TV. It'd be better. It'd be better for everybody.
It would be better for downtown.
It would suck for me as a season ticket holder.
Maybe they could. I don't know. Maybe they could do something for season ticket holders to kind of make up for it.
The point is, and you're right, that like with with television culture and Netflix and everything else that's going on, the valuation on those tickets is going down. Like the natural value of those tickets goes down every single year.
And it's, there's so many other ways to follow a team. You can watch the game. You can watch the game online. You can follow a game on Twitter without ever seeing an inning played and know exactly what's happening. There are just so many other ways to be engaged with the team that I think a lot of people just actually putting in the effort to come down here and going to a game, it at some point kind of falls off the list.
When my wife and I, when we first got married, I used to have, this was back in the days of tube televisions. So I had and we had cable. And so I had a second TV in our family room. It was the 13-inch square TV, and that was the Indians TV. And so the Indians would be on while we watched other things on the real TV. But as time moves on, as we have children, as we grow up, it's harder and harder to justify that kind of arrangement because that's really kind of immature to think that you need that much.
It's kind of awesome for the record, but
it was awesome, but it wouldn't look so awesome to be like, yeah, kids, that's the Indians TV.
Right.
We watch. We can't have just one giant screen plus phones and computers in front of us. We must also have a second television. No. So, but at the same time, my wife and I can watch Freaks and Geeks, which we're finally watching right now on Netflix, and then I can turn on the MLB app in the morning while I'm on the exercise bike and just catch the highlights in 7 minutes.
Right.
There's a lot of fat in the baseball game.
Yes, there is.
But there's a lot of fat in the NFL game too. The morning after Browns games, I sometimes watch the condensed version on the NFL app, and I can watch an entire football game in 34 minutes.
That's, amazing. It's amazing.
It scares me as to where we're going with our entertainment.
And I feel like the attendance issues have been a conversation every season for ever now. Everyone keeps talking about it and people complain about it, but nobody seems to know how to fix it. There's no magical solution. So what are things that the team can do to fix it? Or we as fans, what can we do to help make it better?
Well, and that's the thing that I don't totally understand. If you can't sell tickets, the natural reaction in my mind would be to lower prices.
Right.
But there's all this pressure from around baseball to have an upward momentum on ticket cost. And so the Indians have tried everything from dynamic ticket pricing so that if you go on a Tuesday, it's cheap as anything. But But that's just, again, devaluing a day that was already devalued to begin with.
Yeah, so you're totally right.
I don't think that works even from a, the old demand and price, where they cross on the old chart. I'm going back to my 101 economics days.
Like supply and demand,
yeah, so
and there's a chart.
I had demand and price. I drank a beer at dinner and supply went out the window. So.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It has been a constant topic of conversation, almost to an annoying degree. Right,
and no one. We all keep talking about it, but no one knows. No one knows what to do about it.
Well, and at the end, apparently, not enough people have enough desire to go.
And I feel like, in addition to price, it's the sheer frequency of games. When they're on a homestand, there's a game every night. That's a lot of people in that stadium every day, day after day. You're going to go to one game, but probably not 3 in a row. So I think that's, I don't know.
And I think we have been sold on sports as urgency. Certainly the NFL, that's one of the major things. There are only 16 of those games.
Yep.
There are division games that mean something. And so they've created these events. Monday Night Football is an event. Even Thursday Night Football, which is a joke on your television. If it's in your town, Thursday Night Football is an event.
Yep.
Baseball has no events.
Right. You're right. It's just game after game after game. And, unless you're down to the wire in like the playoff hunt, it just seems like very, I don't know, monotonous maybe.
And you know why this conversation is so crazy and infuriating? Because by the same token, we have a meaningless regular season in the NBA, but somehow they create a sense of urgency. You know what? It's not infuriating. You know why? It's because the stars mean something. They need the stars to mean something in baseball again.
Yep.
And I don't know how they do that, but they're failing miserably. I mean, you could probably rattle off 8-9 players who are in the running for the top 5 players in the NBA. You could probably name 3 for the top 5 players in MLB.
Yeah. No, you're totally right.
And I won't make you do it because I can't do it either.
I was going to start with Mike Trout and then just feel it out from there, but thanks.
I'd say Mike Trout and then Michael Brantley because I'm a homer. And then that douche guy from the Nationals. I always forget his name, but I can picture him.
Just douche guy is fine.
Which is a perfect segue to get the hell out of talking about baseball because I can't remember anybody's name right now. And we can talk about Taylor Swift, whose name I can remember. So I keep waiting, and maybe the shoe will never drop, but I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop because Ryan Adams recorded an entire version of Taylor Swift's album 1989, and it's big, it's huge, everyone's talking about it. And I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop where they're like, Taylor's record company paid $1.2 million to Ryan to record it to extend the marketability factor on her album. And I'm waiting for this like business thing to just drop. But it sounds like maybe that's never going to happen.
Yeah, that had never occurred to me. And now I'm like, oh man, is that the case? I hope that's not the case.
Everything I'm reading says that that's not the case, that Ryan Adams was listening to this album. He wanted to do something with it in December. He bought a 4-track recorder and started to do it, but it ate up the tape. And then he was hanging out with some friends in August because he owns his own studio, and they just set about doing it one song at a time until it was done.
That's amazing, I think. And I think like Ryan Adams is such a random person to do that. Like, would you ever, out of like all of music today, would you ever think that Ryan Adams would be the one remaking an entire Taylor Swift album?
No, I mean, he certainly, it's always been in his playbook because he did garner a big fan base when he covered Oasis's Wonderwall.
Uh-huh.
But no, nothing like this. I mean,
know.
to record an entire album, not just one song, not just like the biggest song. If he had just gone off and done Shake It Off and put it on SoundCloud, we'd be like, oh, whatever.
Right.
But dude committed to like 10 days in the studio with his friends, working obsessively and banging out all of every song from her album. And
it's so good.
So you have listened to it now?
I have listened to it.
All right.
I spent a lot of time with it.
And you're loving it?
I'm loving it. It's like, it's the craziest thing because Taylor's album has been on repeat in my car for like the better part of a year. I think that album came out last year.
All right. Now tell everybody how many times you've seen Taylor Swift
Twice.
on this album.
Twice in the last like couple months. I saw her when she was in Cleveland, and then I saw her last Thursday night in Columbus.
I don't know why I didn't know you were at that Cleveland show. That Cleveland show was really entertaining.
It was so much fun. And the Columbus one was amazing as well. It was just as fun.
Did she have a special guest who like came in and did something?
So she did 2 nights in Columbus, Thursday and Friday. She didn't have one when I was there on Thursday. On Friday, she had the girl from Echo Smith.
Okay.
Who came out and they sang, I think their song is like The Cool Kids. They did that, but no, there was no special guest when I saw her.
All right. And was it basically the same show with the crazy bracelets and everything?
Yes, it was the same show. It was the crazy bracelets and like the pack of dude dancers around her all the time. It was great. My bracelet still works, actually.
Did it tear down any walls for you, seeing like kind of the same beats and maybe some of the same lines, or does she change it up enough? Is she enough of a performer and a different person from night to night?
You know, I feel like she does different things to make it feel special for that audience that's there. And, you know, for me, our seats in Columbus were way better. We had amazing seats. So it just felt like a different experience being down that close to the stage.
Well, and the stage is this giant long runway.
Yes.
And there's like a hydraulic thing, too, which boosts her up. So she's, 20 feet in the air at certain points, which,
yeah.
I mean, spared no expense on the tour. It's pretty incredible.
And I feel like the bracelets are one of the cooler things I've ever seen at a concert. Like everyone in the whole place gets this little wristband when you come in, and then her sound guys control it, and they light up, they change colors, it goes along to the beat of the music. So you have, 40,000 people all with these bracelets lighting up at the same time. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I took an Instagram video where I held my arm out and my wife held her arm out, and our bracelets were like playing with each other. They go back and forth.
Really?
During one of her songs. It was awesome.
That's
so cool. So I mean, those are the extras. You just can't. You're just not going to get that at the grog shop. As much as I love those little shows. Where the performance is more the thing. And I still stand by the fact that the Katy Perry and her Katy Cats had a much more entertaining show, but Taylor Swift was really good.
Oh, so you saw Katy Perry?
The year before, yeah.
Nice.
And her show was like way more over the top, way more Vegas, and a little bit more impressive.
Yeah.
But she didn't have the cool bracelets. I mean, let's be honest.
I thought that Katy Perry's Super Bowl halftime show was amazing and over the top, and it was kind of like Vegas, just lots of colors and lights and noise and just craziness.
Well, and she's a different kind of, I was going to say animal, but I thought I might get in trouble. She's a different kind of animal than Taylor Swift is. I mean, as pop stars, they are animals, let's be honest. It's
a character that they're playing, I feel like, a lot more than...
Oh, yeah. And how different do you find Taylor Swift now that she's like pop star Taylor Swift?
It's my friend that I was with in Columbus. We were joking. We saw Taylor Swift open for Rascal Flatts probably 10 years ago. And she had on this, I remember she had this little sparkly dress and these big knee-high combat boots, and was just this skinny little girl singing songs, and we were like, who is this? Get her out of here. And now she's one of the biggest stars in the world. It's crazy how she's evolved and the places that she's taken her brand. I think she's really good at branding herself.
I wouldn't have taken her seriously for even half a second if one of the times that I talked to Scott Rabb, he did one of his Q&As with her and just came away thinking she was about the most impressive, individual person with what she puts up with and how she's risen and dealt with all the pressure of being as big as she is from being this Nashville star who, and stars in Nashville are not the same as stars in LA.
Right.
But all of a sudden she had this world-renowned fan base, not world-renowned fan. She was world-renowned to the point that she had this fan base that was looking up her parents in Nashville, and it was the kind of compression chamber of fame that nobody should be able to deal with. And Scott was just so impressed by the way she was able to handle it all that I kind of had to take her seriously when 1989 came out, and I probably wouldn't have if he hadn't said it.
He vouched for her.
Well, I mean, and this is a guy, he's talked to Leonard Nimoy, he's talked to Bill Murray, he's talked to the stars of the stars of the stars, And he's never had he told me he'd never had anybody show up to an interview with multiple bodyguards, but she needed it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And she just, it's part of her existence. And on days when she needs to be by herself, she just doesn't leave her house. Mm-hmm. But that's the reality that she's come to accept. And you and I wouldn't accept that.
No. And she seems so likably down to earth, and she, I remember last year around Christmas time, this video of her, she went Christmas shopping for some of her most vocal fans online, the people that are tweeting her all the time, the names that she recognized in her mentions or whatever. She went out to the mall and bought them sweaters and scarves and hats and mailed them to people personally with a note thanking them for being fans. What celebrity does that? That's amazing.
Well, and some people wanted to be really oh, look, she did another look at me moment when she gave $50,000 to somebody on a GoFundMe. And it's how cynical do you have to be?
Right.
How cynical do you have to be to criticize somebody for going out of their way to do something extra? Was it good for her PR? Yeah. Just in as much as it's good for anybody's PR not to be shit.
Right. Right.
We should be. Anyway. I don't want to go over the top on Taylor Swift because a friend of mine, I posted something about Taylor Swift and how much money she could make from Ryan Adams' album because I found the article online. I thought it was interesting, and a friend of mine posted a really funny joke. He said, "Yeah, I was concerned that Taylor Swift's other money would get lonely without new money to keep it company," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, all right, yeah, that's funny. It's funny. I'll grant him that." But it doesn't seem like she's. I mean, it's easy for somebody with tons of money to not care about having more money and giving $50,000, I guess. But it's better than the alternative,
right?
So.
And has she released a statement about Ryan Adams doing that, or has she acknowledged it at all?
He did an interview on Beats Radio, and she called in last Friday as part of the thing, and she's just so she's so said she was very honored and flattered and happy, and she loved it, and she even picked a favorite song. I can't remember what it was, but
oh yeah, I wonder which one it is.
I'll look it up if you say something else.
So what's your personal favorite on the Ryan Adams version?
Oh, my personal favorite on the Ryan Adams version, and whenever I repeat back the question, that means I have to look up the answer. It's a classic buy me some time kind of tactic. And now I'm letting everybody know what it is so now
people will listen for it.
Yeah, it was Out of the Woods. Out of the Woods became this annoying song, and I'm sorry, it was one of the ones that kind of annoyed me in that pop style because it was so repetitive and I can't really get on board with that. But the Ryan Adams version, he turned it into a waltz, and he added probably, I'm going to guess, a 2-minute instrumental with new melodies and stuff, and it was just the prettiest thing ever, the way that he did it and the way that it exited. It was almost a hopeful song the way he did it, and I just loved his interpretation of that one.
Yeah. So I found Taylor's favorites, by the way.
Okay.
She said she couldn't choose between Blank Space and How You Get the Girl.
Those are good choices.
Yeah, those are good choices.
All right, so what was your favorite? Because, by the way, the close second was This Love, which turned into just a one man and a piano ballad.
Yeah, I think that my favorite is All You Had to Do Was Stay.
That's a good one.
I love that on her album too, but I don't know, that was the one, that's been the one so far that I keep going back to and hitting replay.
It's pretty phenomenal what he was able to do. But I do have some reservations about it, just in terms of not him and not this, but I think now that this is going to be in the playbook of many people, and we're going to see this a couple more times, the poor man's version.
You mean redoing the whole album?
Yep. Because I really, as much as I love it, and as much as I respect Ryan Adams for doing it, I know enough musicians and enough talented musicians to know that this could easily be done by a large number of them if they just knew to try it. And now that somebody's done it, it's now in the playbook of the culture.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see
totally
probably
right. 5
or 6 more, and everyone's going to be like, I can't believe somebody's doing this again. Not with Taylor Swift. I wonder who the next one's going to be, though.
It'll be a completely random pairing like this one.
And covers aren't new. I know covers aren't new, but covering an entire album from front to back is pretty new.
Yeah. I can't think of anyone that's ever done it.
No. But I mean, we should be so. I'm not going to complain because we should be so lucky to have this version, just because it cements so much of it. It cements the songs as universal, pieces of art. Whether you like Taylor Swift's version or not, it just kind of cements them as pieces of art, and I kind of like that.
And pieces of art that everybody, regardless of who you are or where you come from, can relate to in some way.
Yes.
They're all about relationships, and they're spot on whether or not you like her and her version of the song. The lyrics are right on.
Yeah. Well, and that's something interesting too, because the lyrics and their original intent don't even mean anything. Once the album's released, because everyone kind of grabs it and takes it and attaches it to their own kind of way. But that's another thing that's proven out by the Ryan Adams version, because he doesn't know exactly where she was or where her head was when she wrote those lyrics and and attached them to the melodies or wrote the melodies depending on the song. But, for him, it was a totally different headspace. And it's still meaningful even once it's been kind of bastardized or whatever you want to call what Ryan Adams did. Mm-hmm. But that's meaningful to all of us, because I think we all take songs and misappropriate them, so to speak.
You assign your own meaning to them.
And I think we're supposed to. I think we're allowed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is so cool, because now Ryan Adams has kind of cemented the fact that we're allowed.
It's totally right.
All right, now I feel like I just dictated or something. Is there anything else that we wanted to hit before we go? This was a quick and easy. It was like 42 minutes, but it was the easiest conversation ever.
Oh, good. The only other thing that I had on my list was Tristan Thompson.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Because I love the Cavs so much, and I love him so much. Both sides seem so far away in these negotiations. I just don't understand what's going to happen here, and it's making me nervous.
Are you riding the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster, the Tristan Thompson?
A little bit.
Where Rich Paul is fighting it out in the media.
A little. I am totally along for the ride at this point.
I think he's really wrong to do that, by the way.
Yeah. I mean,
I think his leverage speaks for itself.
Yeah, it should. I just think, there's $14 million in difference between the two sides, but you're talking about $80 million to $94 million. Really? You guys can't find a little common ground in there? I don't know. I just wonder, I feel like the Cavs as a whole seem like they really genuinely enjoy being a team together, and they're working out together right now. They're posting Instagrams together, and Tristan is noticeably absent from those photos. And I just wonder, is it going to impact team chemistry or his relationship with any of the other players? If he does ultimately come back, it's crazy to me that we're still talking about this, because I feel like it's been talked about for months.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm trying really hard to stay out of it, because until such time as the season starts, I just won't believe that they won't sign him for 5 years, because they just don't have any other choice. And that's part of the reason why I'm so irritated with Rich Paul. It's like, dude, your leverage speaks for itself. Just shut up. You're making your player unpopular.
Right.
If Tristan Thompson was just sitting there, unsigned, and the Cavs were hanging out there with their $80 million offer, everyone would be like, Tristan Thompson is valuable, and the cap's going up, and the future, and blah, blah. Just pay him. Just pay him.
Right.
But now that he's talking, and his agent sounds greedy and ungrateful and unwilling, and throwing ultimatums out there, I think it's hurting Tristan Thompson from a PR standpoint. Maybe he doesn't care, but it blows.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right. Because I believe the latest threat is that he'll sign for 1 year, right, and then walk away in 2016.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think in any city, you don't want to do that, but I think that you really don't want to do that in Cleveland. Like, we, as Cleveland fans, take everything to heart, and people aren't going to forget that he said that.
No, and they'll, regardless of the fact that it was the agent, Rich Paul, they're going to sign it to Tristan Thompson.
Yep.
And Tristan Thompson has been like the sweetheart, squeaky clean, great teammate, stand up for his guys kind of guy. And it's unfortunate to see him take a hit because he is such a likable guy. I mean, he was a hero through the playoffs.
Last season I started calling him a puppy because he is so likable and seems so like he's having so much fun out there. It's like watching.
So you don't think he sexually harassed the Cavs beat sideline reporter, Allie Clifton?
I don't know. I hope not.
No, I don't think so either. It was just funny because he did something. He kissed her on the head, right? He kissed her on the hair, and they were like, "No, dude, you can't do that." They like shamed him for a couple weeks in the national NBA. But you're right. He's a goofy puppy dog. He doesn't mean anything by that,
right? He's a puppy.
It's out of context for anybody who doesn't know Tristan like we know Tristan.
Right. We're talking about him like we personally know him so well. Like, our friend Tristan is such a puppy. He's just so cute and so fun to watch. But
is it weird that I assign him special humanity privilege because he's Canadian too?
No, I didn't even think about that. That's a whole nother.
Like one of our brothers from up north.
Yeah, and everyone knows Canadians are nicer than Americans, right?
They eat poutine. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
You're totally right.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to finish with poutine references.
I think so.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming on. It's always fun to have you. This is the second time. We're going to have to do it again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss any episodes. We talked to Tony Mazur this week, and we've got some more stuff coming. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss it, and then I'll be happy. So until next time, everybody, it's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.